and welcome to another edition of Classroom Chronicle. I'm your host, Pete Braley. This is the show that tries to shine a spotlight on what's happening at the area schools that serve New Bedford, whether it's a teacher, administrator, or students. Today, we welcome back the athletic director at New Bedford High School. He is Tom Tarpey. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Last time you and I chatted, it was right before COVID.
Yeah, little did we know. But.
Yeah, I think it was a month before, and at the end of the show, I signed off by saying, hey, good luck with that thing they're talking about. And you were telling me that there were no plans at that point.
No.
It just suddenly, they suddenly shut it down, right?
Yeah, I remember, like I said, I believe it was March 13th, we were in the weight room, and they called and said, we're shutting down for a week, and then a week became 2 weeks, and 2 weeks became a month, and
wow.
There we have it.
All right, we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. But the reason we invited Tom back was the fact that he is the 2024-2025 Massachusetts Secondary School Athletic Directors Association, the AD of the Year, right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now tell me about that organization. You were the president of that organization last year, right?
Yes. It's called MASADA for short, but Massachusetts Secondary Schools Athletic Directors Association. And we have a board. There's 9 districts throughout the state, and every district is represented. And that's at these meetings. We have the meetings once a month. And we mainly are focused on professional development for athletic directors. We run the state conference that we have in March. So every district selected one person to be their athletic director of their district of the year, and then everybody voted, and then there's one winner from those 9 districts.
So I was going to ask about whether or not you got nominated for this, or how the process works.
Yeah. So basically, the athletic directors from District 8, which we are, goes from like Cape Cod, Tech. Not all the way down the Cape to like Brockton. I forget how many schools, maybe 23 schools or something like that. So every athletic director gets a vote, and I was lucky enough to get the vote for District 8, and then I went up against 9 other athletic directors for the final vote. Yeah. So it means something. It's my peers that voted for it, so it really means a lot.
Right. You get a trophy for that, a plaque, or
I get a plaque. There's a
free Dunkin' Donuts or something.
There'll be a banquet in March down at the state conference.
Oh, nice.
where I'll get awarded a plaque, and there'll be a little ceremony.
Super! Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long have you been doing this?
This is my 11th year.
11th year.
10th going on 11th year, yeah.
And I went back and looked at the show we did 5 years ago. It's time just flies by.
Sure does.
So I went back and looked at that, and this was something you always wanted to do, right? You always wanted to be an athletic director.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. I wanted to be a phys ed teacher at New Bedford High. I wanted to be the head basketball coach, and then I wanted to be an athletic director. And I've been blessed that I love going to work every day.
Yeah. And I asked you before we started, I said, how long is your day? Like, do you go, the high school opens at what, 7:20 something?
Yeah, but I work out of PRAB, the administration building.
On County Street?
So, yeah, so I go in for 8, and then, depending on what the night looks like, I could be there till 9 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock.
Right.
But, so long days.
Long days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it that, it's not that way year round, right? You must have a slower season?
Yeah, I mean, when the in-between seasons is when I just, I'm not there as late, but I run the postseason meetings for coaches. I run the preseason meetings for the season that's about to start, but I'm not there as late if there's no games.
Right. I was curious about that as to how far ahead do you work? Like right now, we're in the middle, I guess, of the winter sports season. Is spring all lined up already?
Spring's done. I'm just finishing up fall of next school year.
Right.
So like I just got done my football season schedule, which is the worst, because it's not the worst. It's just hard to do because you have to fit in a team into a week. So it's hard. Like other sports, you can say, yeah, we'll get that game in somewhere.
Right.
But football, there's only there's 11 weeks, and you got to plug them into that week. And if they're open that week, teams aren't open that week. So you lose sleep sleep sometimes figuring out who's going to play what week and who you're going to play. So I'm lucky now that it's done. I got the schedule for next year, so now I'm working on the other sports for the fall.
And I noticed that a lot of schools have gone to Thursday night football games. Was that because of the referees?
Yeah,
trying to get enough
because
reps?
of the officials. Our assigners asked us to have at least one Thursday game or Saturdays, and we went to mostly Saturdays last year. But as of right now, we're going to try to go back to Friday night football games, and then we'll probably throw a Thursday one in there just to help out with the referees.
So let's see, it's the end of January, and you've already got fall football mapped out.
And most of the other sports, I'm halfway done probably.
Right.
Yep.
And that's a yearly thing. You have to stay that far ahead.
Yeah, you have to, because people start calling and you start calling people, and you got to be ready for when they call to get games, because if you're not, they're going to find somebody else.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So just to recap here, you are a New Bedford High graduate, right? Was it 1988?
1988, yep.
88, and you played baseball and basketball, right?
Correct, yep.
At the high school?
Yep.
What kind of a student athlete was Tom Tarpey?
I was average. Basketball, I was a captain, but I think I was a captain because I worked hard. I used to take a lot of charges. I used to dive on the floor. I wasn't fast, and we played up and down, so I think I had a high basketball IQ. I knew where to be. So I played in baseball. I played varsity for 2 years. I played third base. Decent hitter, not a very good fielder, but a decent hitter. I would have rather be DH. I didn't like playing the field, but it's what I grew up with. My family was all about sports, and I just loved it. And I knew from high school that I wanted to be a phys ed teacher, and I was very fortunate and be a coach.
What attracted you to the job of being the athletic director? You mentioned last time that you had some very good mentors.
Yeah, Dick Pont was the athletic director when I was there, and he was very good to me, and I looked up to him a lot. And then when I started teaching, Mike Correa got the job, who was a very good mentor to me, who I used to call a lot when I first got the job and helped me out tremendously. So those two guys were really, really, really mentors to me, and made me want to be an athletic director.
I know you do a lot, but what do you say to someone who says, so what does an athletic director do? How do you answer that question? Everything that needs doing.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back at it, I was like, what do they do all day? And then now that you're in it, you put out a lot of fires. You listen to parents, you let them vent to you. And then it's scheduling, it's referees, it's buses. I mean, the worst thing, a nightmare for an athletic director, is if a bus doesn't show up.
Right.
Or if a team doesn't show up because they got a different date, so you're always calling the day before or the morning of. My secretary's great. She's calling to make sure our buses are set. She's calling schools to make sure you're all set for this game, and so we don't run into that problem. So that's like, a bad thing if there's no bus or the team doesn't show up.
Yeah. Since the last time you and I talked, there's been quite a few developments. You've added to the fields at the high school, right? You have that new lacrosse field now.
Yeah, we have the new lacrosse field. Probably, I think the new softball field was in yet?
It was just opening.
Yeah,
it was just going to open, but then COVID came, so they didn't play. Yeah.
So the new lacrosse field. So I mean, we have beautiful fields. We're very, very fortunate with that. So I mean, I think we have the best complex around. So. Very, very fortunate.
I notice sometimes that football either plays on the turf field or the grass field. What goes into determining that?
So the grass field, we're getting new lights put up.
Oh, great.
And it's in great shape. Like, the grass itself is in great shape. But we don't have a space right now for the visiting team. We're working on a space for a locker room for the visiting team. So some games, I don't like to have a visiting team have nowhere to go. And I give my coach and the kids the option. We're lucky to have the option of both. And, I'll ask the coach and he'll ask the kids, where do we want to play, this game? And they'll say turf, or they'll say thing. But there are games where we have to play down below on the grass, because there's two bleachers. We don't want to have the same crowd in one bleacher.
So like a New Bedford Durfee or a New Bedford Brockton, where there's going to be a big turnout.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And also, there were some renovations done to the swimming pool?
Yeah, swimming pool we got new locker rooms, and then the infrastructure got done over, mostly underneath where the chlorine is and the filters are and the pumps are. That got all done.
All the stuff that nobody knows
exactly.
what's happening down there. And the team is having a very good year, right?
Yeah, I mean, our swim teams are both undefeated, boys and girls, and they beat Durfee last night, and they're Big 3 champs. So as well as our wrestling team last week beat Brockton and beat Durfee the week before, and we're Big 3 champs in wrestling also.
Speaking of the Big 3, I think the last time you and I talked, and again, that was 5 years ago, it was in 2020, right before COVID, the SEC had just come into formation. Are we back to the Big 3 now for all sports?
Yes. Yep,
okay.
We're back to the Big 3. Yep.
And why was that?
It just didn't seem like a good fit. You know, 3 urban schools and 2 suburban schools.
I got you.
As far as the competition, you know, certain sports, those 2 schools dominated. And it wasn't really fun for us as far as the competition-wise. So, and for them either, because of the new playoff system, where you know you get points for your opponent's wins and stuff like that. So it just didn't really work out. And when we looked at it and we did the data with it, it was best. We all felt it was best just that we separate again.
Yeah. And also at that time, the power rankings had just come into fruition, or I think they were going to be a factor that fall. How has that been? Overall, I think the power rankings, I'll speak just for football, but maybe for all sports, from the outside, it seems to be working well. Yeah,
I mean, when you look at it and the data that the MIA has with it, it makes sense. You know, the best teams are usually the Final Four, and sometimes there's been an upset, but I think it's exciting too for the city. Like now, you know, we're having a great winter, and people are looking at it. It comes out every Tuesday and Friday at 11 o'clock, and everybody's looking at it. Where are we now? You know, where are we? You know, even the kids and the coaches are like excited about it. So I think it brings excitement, and it just you know where you are every week and where you want to be, and you want to be within that top 16 so you can get at least a home game. You know, so it's when you're doing well, it's exciting.
I know a lot of times people look at some of those power rankings and they can't figure it out. You know, a team that has a better record is lower. What goes into that? Ed and I always talk on the radio and Joe and I on cable about, well, it's strength of schedule and things like that, right?
It's strength of schedule. You get points for every win that your opponent gets, but then you also get points for every win your opponents play against teams get. And then the margin of victory, which I'm not in favor of, but
oh, you mean how big a win?
Yeah,
you had?
can win, like in basketball, it's 10 points. So you know, you get more points if you win by 10 than if you win by 6. So
why are you not a fan of that?
I just think it's not good sportsmanship, because there's coaches aren't putting their subs in because they want to get to 10 points.
Okay.
You know, and we've had teams a few years ago that girls basketball game where the team was up by 7 with like 3 seconds left, and the coach calls a timeout and sets up a 3-point play, and my girls are looking at me like, what are they doing? And I'm like, and
He's trying to get to 10.
And they almost made it, like they ran a play and a girl had a wide open 3 and they didn't make it. But that's not, and normal time they would have had all their subs in there, and finishing the game off.
Yeah, no timeout.
The way it should be. So, and it's happening in a lot of sports, so it's a big topic at the MIAA.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens with that.
Is the MIAA constantly reevaluating the power? I mean, do they look at it and look for possible changes that need?
Yeah, all the time. I'm actually a member of what's called the TMC, the Tournament Management Committee. Mm-hmm. We're in charge of the tournament, so we're in charge of all that stuff. So we meet once a month, sometimes twice a month, and we look at all that stuff all the time. So there's been a lot of talk about the margin of victory, and I think we have a meeting tomorrow, and I know that's going to be a topic on the agenda.
I know one of the complaints that came out when they started this power ranking system was a team from the Cape would have to go to Springfield or somewhere out west. That's too much travel. Has that died down now?
Yeah, I think so. My thing is make a big deal of it, like get the kids out of school early, but some schools can't do that. So I understand it to a point, but, you're in the playoffs, it's exciting, but, there have been, I know one year we had our girls basketball were going to I think Brookline, and then boys basketball was going to North Andover, same night, same time, which isn't that bad, you know, when you're talking Springfield and way out in Western Mass. But I don't hear about it as much. I heard about it a lot when it first came out, but I haven't heard that much about it.
I know we had Dr. Baldwin as a guest once when this was first starting, and he talked about even, and maybe you have memories when you were a student athlete. He said, you know, I don't remember the game, but I remember the trip we made to Nantucket. You remember the experience, so give the kids an experience.
Well, exactly, and that's what I try to do. Like, you know, and if it's real far, you try to see if you got it in the budget to get them a coach bus. You know, you get them a bunch of pizzas. You know, they make a big deal of it, and they think it's great. You know, and
I wanted to ask you about that, about how, especially with now, you don't know where the playoffs are going to be. You don't know if you're going to have a home game. You don't know if you're going to have to go to Lee, Massachusetts, or something like that. How do you handle the budget with that? Because, I mean, do you budget ahead knowing, all right, I may have these road trips?
Yeah, I mean, that's what you do. Like, our transportation budget is big, obviously, because we have a lot of sports, and you know, with only 3 teams in our league right now, I only have 4 league games, so I got to get 16. In most sports, 16 non-league games, and sometimes we have to travel. So, I mean, I wouldn't say we over budget, but we have money there for stuff like that. You know,
how does that work when you're putting together the schedule? When you decide a non-league game, where do I go? Does the coach have any input as to who he'd like to play? Or, I mean, how do you decide if you're going to go to, I think this time I went to Abington this year for the first time ever. You know, how do you pick these schools?
So at the end of the year, when I have my postseason meeting with the coaches, I ask them, we go over the schedule. Who would you like? Who would you like me to take off? Who would you like me to get? And most of them, you know, have a list, and so I'll call those schools right away. Right. And then there's times where I can't, they don't want to play, or they can't, and then I'm just like kind of on my own with it. So that's why, like Abington, the coach of Abington is an athletic director. Yes. That's on one of the committees that I'm on, and we started talking, and then I looked them up, you know, and see what their record was in the past, and I know they were good. So that's how we got that game, you know. But then there's always like Taunton, we always like to play. Dartmouth, we always like to play. Right. Bridgewater, Raynham, in most sports, you know, we drop them in some, but in most sports, we like to play them. So schools like that, we like to play. So that helps out with the scheduling, and then after that, it's just like the MIA has a website, and on that website is called Games Wanted. So you list the games that you want in the sport that you need, and then you immediately, like I'm on that 3-4 times a day, you know.
I also had a situation, I think it was at Voc Tech, where one of the coaches, I talked to him in a pregame interview, and he was telling me that they needed more difficult games to help with that strength of schedule, power right. So is that something you also have to take into account?
Oh, yeah.
You need challenges. Number one, it's good for the competition, but it's also going to help you in those power
Like even
games.
some losses are going to help. Like we're going to play Franklin at the end of the year, who's like I think #1 in the state. Excuse me. And you know, win or lose, we're going to get points from them. And that's going to really help our seeding. Okay. So that's what you do. And then if your team's struggling, it's very hard to get games because teams don't really want to play you because they're not going to get many points from you. So it's important that your teams are competitive, and if not, you know, you really got to have contacts all over the state to try to get games and call people up that you're friendly with and say, hey, look, I need a game. Can you help me out? You know.
Do you have a number in your head as to how many athletes there are at New Bedford High School right now, roughly?
Almost 400.
Almost 400 athletes?
Yes.
Wow. That's fantastic. And would you say we're back to normal, back to where we were before the pandemic? Because I'm sure the pandemic had an effect on sports and maybe participation.
I think we're close. We're very close.
Okay.
I don't think we're there just yet, but we're very, very close, yeah.
Okay.
This season right now is probably, and even the fall, participation-wise, is probably the biggest numbers since I took over the first year I was athletic director.
Okay, so things are good. You want to touch on that briefly? What was that like for you to manage? Number one, COVID came out of nowhere as far as school, well, as far as life is concerned, but it really shut you down. Then they said maybe a week, maybe another week. What was that like? And then when you finally came back, you were very limited.
Right. It was, Zoom meetings. My coaches were calling all the time, like, because they wanted to get going. And can we do anything? No, you can't do anything, And then what was really good was the athletic directors throughout the whole state we'd have Zooms every couple days, And we had a couple athletic directors that really led the charge as far as what we can do, what we didn't do. They were reading stuff and they were helping us all out. So it was like one big group. And we were meeting, and I think all the athletic directors in our region did a really good job of, trying to get stuff done and trying to give the kids something.
Right. And then they had to come back and they had to wear masks while playing. Yeah. That took a while to get used to, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. We had masks. Like volleyballs, I have to have somebody stand there, and it was a different volleyball each play. We couldn't use the same volleyball. So I had a rack of volleyballs on one end of the court, rack of volleyballs on the other. The play would get over, they'd toss it to somebody, they would wipe it down, and they'd give them another volleyball, and we put that volleyball in the rack. Same with field hockey balls. The ball goes out of bounds, or they score, we had to get another ball.
Soccer, I would assume, too?
Soccer, same thing,
right,
yep. So it was it was kind of wild. And then, no fans. For that way, and yes, no fans.
Did you have to install cameras everywhere?
We had cameras, we were lucky, but everything had to be live streamed and no fans. So I would be the only one sitting there watching the game, which was wild. Yeah.
I remember those baseball games, right? Where didn't they actually put up posters of people in the seats so it would look like someone was there?
Well, we did that, and then we also had X's on the seats. We had to put X's so many feet apart. Yeah. So that's where people would sit.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. When you think about it, it was really, really wild.
Well, we survived and got through it. And didn't we? Where was the football season moved to? Was it
March?
March.
Yep.
And that must have been totally insane for the coaches. It's not normal to be playing at that time of year.
That was funny. Yep. That was wild.
And some athletes actually played 5 sports that year, right?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, because that was an in-between. I forget what they called it, but it was the in-between sport.
Yeah, you're right. Right. They had a name for that season. I forget what it was. But I remember some students had the opportunity to play 5 sports that year instead of being a 4-sport athlete.
It was wild.
Looking back, again, Tom Tarpey recently named the Athletic Director of the Year for the the Massachusetts Secondary School Athletic Directors Association. Looking back on, you said, 11 years as an AD? Mm-hmm. How's your job changed over those 11 years?
It hasn't really changed a lot.
I wouldn't think so.
It's more social media. Putting stuff out on social media. Yeah. Because now, it's school choice around here everywhere. So a kid can go to any high school. Where
same thing?
Back in the day, you couldn't do that, If you were from New Bedford, you could go. But a kid from New Bedford can go to Dartmouth, can go to Fairhaven, can go to, obviously can go to Voc, because it's all school choice, can go to Taunton, can go to Bridgewater, they can go wherever. So you're kind of recruiting high school kids, you're trying to. So you're trying to put it all on social media, all the good things that happen. So I think that's changed a lot since I took over. I'm constantly on there posting stuff, and also with the help of the school, and our people, everybody's posting stuff, and there's a lot of positive stuff going on in Bedford High.
That's great. Yep. What would you say are some of the big challenges? Is winter an easier time because everything's inside? You have to worry about snowstorms and things like that, but I always felt bad, and I tried to give athletic directors, I'm not going to bother you because I know it's crazy with the weather, especially trying to get spring baseball or softball in. What would you say is your most challenging season?
I would say spring, because I have the most sports in spring.
Okay.
Because you have boys and girls tennis, boys and girls lacrosse, volleyball, baseball, softball, boys and girls track. So I have a lot of sports, and the weather comes into April, and when we start, it's terrible out. In March.
Yeah.
It's awful, and it's cold for a month. And then with the rain, and so I would definitely say because the fall, it starts off, it's beautiful. And
true.
The end of August, September, even into October, it's nice. And then most of the sports are done by mid-October, the end of October, and then it's just football that kind of goes through the tough weather in November for a few weeks before Thanksgiving. But and winter, like you said, everything's inside. So it's kind of fun to be able to just walk out of my office at the high school and go to the gym and watch practices and games and stuff like that.
How many different sports does New Bedford High offer? Do you know?
We offer 27 varsity
27?
sports. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a large number, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that common for a city our size?
I mean, for an urban school, it's pretty the same that most schools have. The big urbans.
Right. And I'm impressed with that swimming program. But that's been around for years, right?
Yeah. They do a great job. Our coaches, they've been there for a long time, and it's really like a family. They're really connected with the kids. They do a great job. But I mean, they're both undefeated. Our wrestling team is doing very well. We have a big tournament actually on Saturday where we're hosting 10 teams.
Oh wow!
That'll be an all-day thing. Our track teams are doing great. Boys and girls basketball, but they both just have 2 losses. So we have a very, very successful winter season.
Yeah. So once again, congratulations. And are you still doing? When last we met, you were talking about how you had different programs going with the middle schools. Is that still active?
Yeah. Yep. And we've actually we've increased the programs. We've added some programs and we've added some schools. So now we kind of have a league with our 3 middle schools. We invite Ford and Hastings to join. So in most sports, we have five schools in the league. So, and we do boys and girls soccer, boys and girls basketball, wrestling, flag football, and volleyball.
Okay. So yeah, some of those are new since the last time, and that must help all the area schools, right? As far as getting these kids interested and then moving on to high school sports.
And we try to treat it kind of like a high school sport, not as many days as like a high school. High school is pretty much 6 days a week, but we try to make it so the kids know when they get up to high school what to expect about the commitment.
I had to laugh. One of my colleagues at one of my other jobs, his daughter just started playing lacrosse last year, and he was overwhelmed. He was like, "What is this? Every day of the week?" And I just laughed. I said, "Welcome to my world, buddy." I mean, this high school sports. That's what happens.
That's
right?
what it is. It's basically 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
In some sports, I don't know if it's all sports, but isn't it they can only go so many days when they have to have a break?
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to have one day off a week.
Right.
And then you got football, who has all these different regulations and guidelines about no hit in this day and no equipment this day. So it's really gotten to be. They really did a lot of changes in football.
So any thoughts about slowing down, or are you still going strong?
Yeah, I'm still going strong. I'm very lucky. I got a very supportive wife who knows that it's a lot of hours. And
how often do you get home for dinner?
Right now, probably 2 days a week, maybe, because basketball.
Right.
And
because all these. I mean, I don't think people realize when we do a game, it starts at 6:30 or 7 o'clock or whatever. But that's the varsity.
Right.
Before that, there was a freshman game at 3.
Yeah.
JV at 5, and you're there for all of those, right?
So you get there, you want to be there for the freshman game when the visiting team arrives, show them where the locker room is, show them where the trainer is if they need anything, and then you want to make sure that the visiting team gets to the bus after the game, because sometimes it gets a little heated.
Right.
So that's like one of the main things, that people are safe, and I got a very good support staff at the high school that really helps me out with that.
All right. Congratulations once again on the award.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Remember, if you have an idea of someone that you think we should have on, either a student, class, teacher, administrator, let me know. My email is peter.braley@newbedford-ma.gov. Until next time, for Classroom Chronicle, I'm Pete Braley. Take care.